Jungkook on Live last night unpacked his difficult childhood. The army was moved. The world was silent to hear his struggle. Last night's Live, which initially looked like a relaxing session full of laughter and jokes, suddenly turned into one of the most emotional moments in the history of Jungkook's interactions with his fans. No one expected that in the midst of a comfortable atmosphere, Jungkook suddenly opened the pages of his childhood that he had rarely revealed directly. Army who watched from all over the world gasped, held their breath, and not a few tears shed when the Golden Magne spoke honestly about how difficult life he had lived before his name was known to the whole world. He sits in front of the screen in a simple hoodie, playing the hem of his shirt, an old habit that often arises when he talks about personal matters. At first, Jungkook just read the comments one by one, occasionally chuckling, occasionally muttering softly. Then without any sign, he took a deep breath. His little smile faded, giving way to a more serious expression. Army knew immediately. He wanted to say something heavy. "I remember when I was a kid. My life wasn't easy," he said quietly, as if he were going back in time many years ago, full of uncertainty. That sentence alone has made many fans feel a feeling of tightness in the chest. Jungkook never fully described how hard his life was at that time. Tonight, however, he seemed to allow himself to open a little old wounds, not to seek sympathy, but rather to be honest that his journey had not been a smooth and full of light from the beginning. He tells the story of how his family had to think twice before buying something, about how he saw his mother save money to make sure the simple needs at home could still be met, about the fear of becoming a burden, and about his determination to someday change the fate of his family. But the most heartbreaking part was when Jungkook said in a slightly trembling voice that he used to worry about whether his dream of becoming a singer would actually worsen the family's condition. "I'm afraid of failure," he said. "I was afraid that I would go to Seoul, and I didn't make it, because back then we were in trouble." The words made thousands of comments instantly move quickly filled the screen, filled with phrases of support, affectionate sentences, and crying emoticons from Army, who was clearly touched by the honesty of his idol. For many, Jungkook is a symbol of success, hard work, and extraordinary talent. But that night, Jungkook reminds everyone that he is also a human being who grew up with fear, doubt, and heavy pressure. That he also revealed that one of the reasons he worked so hard from a young age was because he wanted to make sure his family never felt deprived again. "I just want my family to live comfortably," he said with a faint smile that did not manage to completely hide the bitter memories that appeared behind his eyes. "I want them not to worry about anything." Hearing this, the army felt as if they could see the figure of little Jungkook, who has dreams as big as the sky but lives in a world that feels too narrow to accommodate his hopes. Not stopping there, Jungkook also recalled how he had to train for hours, often to the point of losing track of time, even feeling lonely when he had to live away from home at such a young age. He describes the dorm atmosphere, the silent crying at night, the fear of not being good enough, and how every little failure feels like a crushing blow. But behind it all, there was one thing that always pushed him forward: his family, his mother, and his own determination. "I was a child," she says, "but I had one thought. If I gave up, my life wouldn't change." The moment that made Army SOB the most was when Jungkook said that he still often thinks of his childhood every time he stands on the big stage. He said that he never takes anything for granted that he has today because he knows what it's like to have nothing. "If I could talk to little Jungkook," she said with a bitter chuckle, "I would say, just relax, everything will be fine. You will work hard, you will cry, you will fall. But you will also rise. And you will make your family proud." The watching army felt something different that night, a much deeper connection. Many said it was the first time they felt truly aware of how much weight Jungkook had endured before he became the global star he is known for today. For many fans, Jungkook is no longer just a perfect and accomplished idol, but a child who grew up through the storms of life, a teenager who struggled alone in the big city, and now a grown man who remains humble even though the world already adores him. After a long story, Jungkook smiles again, this time warmer, more accepting of his past. "I'm fine now," he said. "You don't have to worry. I got you guys. I have a member. I have a family. My life is now much happier than I ever imagined. That sentence seemed to calm the army, which had been shivering emotionally. They knew Jungkook's struggle was huge, but hearing directly from him made it all feel so much more real and touching. When the live ended, social media immediately exploded. "I'm proud of you, Jungkook," wrote one of the viral comments. Another said, "She went through so much, but she's still full of love." Thousands of soldiers uploaded snippets of videos, shared messages, rewrote Jungkook's most touching words of the night. Everyone agreed that last night's live was one of Jungkook's most honest, most human, and most electrifying moments of his entire career. His childhood struggles are no longer mere rumors or fleeting stories. Now he himself admits that his path to success was filled with unimaginable wounds, fears, and hard work. But it was precisely that story that made him even more admired. Jungkook is not just a big star. He is living proof that someone born out of adversity can create a much more beautiful world with perseverance, love, and the courage to keep going. And that night, armies around the world realized one thing. They weren't just supporting an idol. They support someone who has fought from scratch, someone who lifted his family out of trouble, someone who never gave up. Jungkook is not just an inspiration. He is a true story of the unbreakable power of the heart. Jungkook closed the night live with a small wave of his hand, but for ARMY, that feeling of excitement didn't stop when the phone screen went dark. Just after the live ended, many began to reflect on every word he said, as if a fragment of Jungkook's childhood story imprinted in their hearts. Many wrote that the way Jungkook told the story made them feel as if they were listening to an old friend who had finally opened the secret he had kept for years. There is a side of Jungkook that has not been seen. A boy who grew up too quickly, who took on the burden of a precocious adult. What's most touching is how Jungkook doesn't tell those things in a blaming tone. He never said that his past hurts others. He actually told the story with gratitude, as if the difficulty was a stepping stone that shaped him into the person he is proud of today. "If I hadn't gone through all that," he said, "I probably wouldn't be who I am today." That simple sentence felt like a hug to many watching. A reminder that the past doesn't always have to be hated, even when it's full of struggle. After the live, various ARMY community accounts began discussing the most heart-wrenching pieces of the video. One of them is when Jungkook mentions that he used to feel like he wasn't enough. "I just want to be good, but sometimes I feel like I'm failing," she said with a small smile. The comments made fans even more aware that behind the incredible feat, there is a lot of fear that he once harbored. Many soldiers admitted that they cried watching Jungkook's efforts to stay strong even though his voice was filled with doubts. What made the moment even more emotional was how Jungkook described his mother as the most important light in his life. She told how her mother always had words of comfort despite their difficult circumstances.